I'm Ben Schmerler, Director of Strategic Operations for DP Solutions. Welcome to another video in our Tech Tips series. Disaster recovery planning is difficult and requires consistent effort and follow-up in order to have the best possible outcome. Nobody wants to be in a situation where something bad happens, and the team doesn't know what to do or what recovery may look like. The only thing worse than a disaster is a disaster that you can't effectively respond to. That's why you need a plan that is dynamic, that addresses a variety of plausible scenarios. Let's go through a few general types of disasters you need to consider for your disaster recovery plan. Technology-related disasters. These kinds of disasters are usually the first things that come to mind when people think about disaster recovery planning. There are a variety of ways technology can fail, from cybersecurity issues like viruses and ransomware, to hardware failure, software bugs, and network outages. Planning around these kinds of disasters is a manner of analyzing the likelihood and impact of failure and engineering around that. Most technology can be restored to alternative solutions or repaired when the proper investment is made. However, there may be limitations to what kinds of resources could be invested in a technical solution, and by extension, what kind of recovery objective can be achieved. This is very important to recognize, because while your technology response might be limited, there are things that can be done operationally to mitigate the risks and impact of these kinds of disasters. Natural disasters. Pandemic brought to light the need for businesses to make sure their disaster recovery plans are inclusive enough to speak to events we may have thought were highly unlikely. People running disaster recovery tabletop exercises, regardless of whether it was addressed in their plans or not, probably weren't expecting for most staff to leave the office on short notice in 2020. When you were planning around natural disasters, it's important to keep a very open mind to the types of scenarios you can encounter. It's not just about hurricanes in the southeast United States or earthquakes on the Pacific coast. Even the fact that your office building is prone to flooding needs to have a plan that's specifically talking about these items. We have proof now that in addition to floods and storms, events that we once considered unlikely could have a major impact on how we work. Physical disasters. These kinds of disasters are also unpredictable and include things like fires, a burst pipe, power or water loss, gas leaks, and building break-ins. Some of these disasters will make resources impossible to use because, for example, the office building may be unusable. Other times, these kinds of disasters may have safety or legal implications, such as in the case of the break-in. While there are things that can be done to mitigate the risk of these disasters occurring, like fire detection and alarm systems, you can probably tell that many of these disasters are inherently unpredictable. The most important step you can take in order to plan for these disasters is to come up with specific response tasks to create alternative work sites and deal with the authorities. As recent events prove, we need to be ready to respond to a variety of disasters at a moment's notice, so consistent planning and review is the key to manage these risks. Has your business experienced a significant disaster that required you to implement your plan? If you're willing to share, we'd love to hear more from you in the comments. Until next time, stay vigilant, my friends.